Hello, hello. It's time for another test stream that I'm doing as I'm preparing and figuring out how this YouTube streaming works. Where's my webcam? There you are. All right. So I wanted to continue on with the Screeps build today because I'm running a little bit late. Have a little bit less time than yesterday. But I feel that we can sort of like finish programming up a little bit of what we had and get the base essentially fully automated. And all that's really required now is to add in the spawning system. So let's go ahead. I'm going to open up Steam. All right, open up Screeps. Yep, I lost all my spawns, and that's because all my little guys died. So we were up here. Let's find another place. How about you? This is probably fine. We're gonna spawn right there. Now it won't do anything automatically, even though my code is all here. And the reason is because there's nothing that will create creeps for me. So I'm thinking for this, because we have to create unique names for these creeps, we can sort of reuse them. If we take a look at the memory creeps, we have these two harvesters and an upgrader just sitting here in memory. They're dead, but we can maybe go through and if they're not alive, just tell them to become alive. So what are some ways that we can do this? We can loop through with each loop and attempt to spawn everything, which I think that sort of makes a little bit of sense. We can go through and just say, okay, we need to spawn something because we can. Let's take a look at the documentation again. Hey, one. Okay, apparently only wants to be on the left side. That's fine. Documentation for Screeps. We'll just come in here. And we want something about how to spawn them. So the game spawner, that's, yeah, structure.spawn. So can create creep has been deprecated. Create creep is deprecated. Now there is a renew creep and a recycle creep. What does renew creep do? Increase the remaining time to live of the target creep. Oh, and renewing a creep remove and its boost. So we don't have any boosting systems right now, but that's something that's good to know because we can decide whether or not we really do want to renew creeps or just let them die and create new ones. But this one, like the body size, we have 3 things on the body. So 600 divided by whatever that body size is, it doesn't feel like it's going to do a huge amount to it. Now we could create the creep again, but it looks like we just need to try it. We could wait until we have all the energy available and then try it. Or we could just try it like there'll be some error messages, but it won't be the worst things in the world. So where are we? Here's our new room. So here's what the code in here looks like. I'll be interested to see if it's viewable on a smaller screen. So I'm going to take a look at that. Turn down the volume to... Okay, let's take a look. That's really small text. So I think it is better to just go ahead and see if I can get code up and running. And we should have it open to the same file here. Yeah, this looks right. So what we want to do is want to tell it, okay, if there are dead creeps. So we first need to find, we need to get a, we did working state. Maybe after we do everything else, we need to find out whether or not there are any creeps to be, well, to be respond. So for that name, game.creeps. These are just the individual creeps, but what we really want to do is go through, say, okay, let's loop through the memory. So for let name in, and in reality, I might want to actually do sort of like a series of functions that are going to work together with this. So I want to call get list of dead creeps. So I want the dead creeps first. And I may need even, I don't even need to do that because then I can run. So after I get the list of dead creeps, then I want to, and that should give me an array of these dead creeps. What do I want to do then? I want to attempt to spawn, or maybe choose the most important one to spawn. So sort dead creeps dot then after sorting the dead creeps, we want to tempt spawning. And after we tempt the spawning, then, well, I mean, I guess that's kind of it, isn't it? Just those two things. So let's first get list of dead creeps. All right, well, we can get this off of not the game object, but the memory object. So in this case, we're going to say for let name in game.memory, I think it's game.memory, dot creeps. We'll find out, we can find out pretty quickly because this should, we should be able to get like a console log before it errors out on these other names. And I could even console log these out or comment those out. And then here, let's console.log the name. Creeps of undefined. So that was wrong. Let's just try memory.creeps. Okay, there we go. So it's just memory.creeps. So we have a full game object that we can use here, which means that the dead creep, so const dead creep, well, it's actually, these are just any of the creeps, aren't they? So it's a potentially dead creep until we verify that it's not. So this is creep equals memory.creep of name. So now that we have this creep, we can now verify if it's in the game by asking it, is it in the games? So if game.creeps of name. I guess I don't need this line yet, because I can start by saying, okay, if game.creeps the name. So if there is a name in game.creeps, if that exists, then it's in the game. But if it does not exist, then I'm probably going to want some kind of array. So dead creeps equals an empty array, and we can push into here. So if it doesn't exist, then dead creeps.push, it's going to be memory.creeps of name. So now we're going to be able to pass around the full creep objects. And so we've reached the end here, and now we can return the dead creeps. That will stop this here, so we can clear that. I'm going to make you go to the left so we can see all of you. So we've gotten a list of dead creeps. Then, but we want to be able to use then on it. And this is not a promise yet. So what I can do is put this inside of a promise with return. I can either do new promise or return promise dot promise dot validate. No, it's, what's saying here? I always forget the exact one it is. It's reject and it's resolve. Promise.resolve. And I believe this takes a callback function. And we're just going to throw everything into it. So now we return these dead creeps to this promise. So what's going to come into this next promise here is the dead creeps themselves, which of course we're going to want to sort these dead creeps. And this takes in an array of creeps. Let's begin by just console.log the creeps. We should get 3 of them. Promise.resolve. Resolve of undefined. Oh no. Okay, so let's go and verify. Oh, promise is, oh, very interesting. Promise is not defined. They're not, we don't have access to promises here, do we? I guess it's not that that huge of a deal. It's just sort of a little bit sad because I was hoping to be able to chain them together like this. Makes it a little bit easier to read, but we could use a callback formula, which is, because I could do this. We're going to take creeps and we'll then sort the dead creeps. Or I could just do sort dead creeps directly in here. But that's a little bit sad because now I can't make it really easy about the next thing, which is the attempt spawning. Ah, and it's all because promises don't exist in here, does it? Okay, I'll do, let's undo until I... Okay, no more promise here. Dead creeps. So I'm just going to have to do this the good old-fashioned way. Const creeps equals, and I should probably call these dead creeps. And then we're going to sort these dead creeps. Which means I'm going to want to const sorted dead creeps equals sort dead creeps. And I can actually do this as a let and override this. So we're going to dead creeps. We're just going to get that going. Now, I might be able to do something with like an underscore type thing where I create a library that will do that. That was probably going to be a little bit easier and a little bit a little bit more composable for this. But for right now, I just want to get these working, and then I can maybe like off screen figure out ways to refactor this, make this look a little bit nicer. But all right, let's sort these dead creeps. So this is going to take in a list of creeps, and it's an unsorted list right now. The big thing is that we're only going to be able to do one, right? So in fact, I should probably just get the most important one, if there is one. So I want to const creep to resurrect, and then choose creep to spawn, and we're going to pass it in the dead creeps. I like this a little bit more because, I mean, I can't do multiple at the same time because I only have one spawn. Now, when I upgrade and get more spawns, I'm going to want to refactor this, but it's quite possible that that won't really matter for a while. So what am I calling this? Choose creep to spawn. And we're going to get a list of creeps. So my first, the first thing I want to think about is what's the most important one? And that's going to be the spawner. If the spawner dies, or the harvester dies, then we're going to run out of energy for the spawn, and that's going to be bad. So what we can do is search in here for a few different things. Now I believe that there is a new search feature in JavaScript. Let's see what it is. MDN array search. Now I do have access to underscore, so I can also use that. Array.prototype.find. I could also use reduce, would also work. Find method returns the value of the first element in the array that satisfies the provided testing function. Okay, so I think that this will work. I want to first console.log what these creeps are. Let's see if we can actually view the entire object. No, we can't. So let's delve in. So the first creep, just still object. Let's go into that and do name. Undefined. How about role? Harvester, That's actually nice. I could go through and get its keys and loop those. So let's first, I think maybe a find would be good here. And we just really care about the roles. We don't really care about like the individual names. So we want to probably just a straight up return. Return creeps.find, because it is find. It's going to take a callback function. It's going to get the element, and if it's truthy, we return that element. So we're going to get a creep, and we want to return truthy if the role, so it's going to be if the creep.role is equal to harvester. Well, that's great and all, but what if it's not? Now I could do this and so I can do this and basically go through and like put it into the first oh man. So what I'm thinking of here is if this doesn't find it, I'm just returning nothing, and nothing really works here. I really need to know what is in this array first. That's all that really matters. And if I know what's in the array, then well, then I'm fine. Now I can loop through. I think it's better just to do a plain old loop through this. So I'm not even going to do a for each or reduce here, because I'm going to want to exit early if I find the thing, if I find something that I'm looking for. Because if I find a harvester I want out right now, but if I find something else, I guess I just need to know what's in here, don't I? I need to know what I have in here and where things are. So maybe I can create sort of a map of here. And I don't mean like necessarily map using map, but more const creep roles. And this could be an empty function. What we can do is make it look like we have harvesters, and then like the first version of this is at position 1, let's say. So it can be the role and then the first instance of where that is inside of the array. And then we can go through this and choose which one we want to return. Okay, let's try this. Creep roles equals an empty object. So we're going to, this feels like a reduce to me because I'm reducing it to a single thing. So while keeping that there, let's actually creeps.reduce, and we're going to take the object, so roles, we're going to take the very next creep, and I need to put this in parentheses. Do I need like the index or the array itself? I don't think I do. So in here, we're going to get the creep. We want to check. I'm going to do this multi-line. We're going to check to see if the creep is in the role. So if roles of creep.role. So if it's in there, then we don't want to do anything. So if it is not in here, I will want the index. So index, current index, yep. If roles creep.roll. So if we don't have it in there, then I want to say roles of creep.roll is going to equal I. Okay. And then we're going to return roles. So that way we're sort of like growing this with different things, and we'll do another loop through after this to determine which one we want to actually build. All right, so we don't even have to do a loop. We'll just check different things. Now at the end of this, we do want to make sure that we're beginning with an object, and that's it. Now we have these creep roles, and I'm kind of we know what's going to be in here: an upgrader and 2 harvesters. So if creep roles dot harvester, so if that exists, I want to just, for right now, console.log harvester found at position creep roles dot harvester. Harvester found at 1. Perfect. And this it also happened at upgrader. Upgrader. Upgrader, save. Upgrader found at 2. So perfect. Interesting. So it found an upgrader at 2. It found a harvester at 1. What about 0? Why did it not put that in? I think that's a little bit interesting. I kind of want to console log in here. To use templating here. I want to log roll, and this is going to be creep.roll at index. And I'm going to remove this line. Oop, that command. Roll harvester at index 0, harvester at index 1, and upgrader at index 2. So I'm interested in why it didn't choose 0. Because it is going through here and it's finding these. So if not creeps.roll, so if it doesn't, oh, you know what? Because 0 is falsy. So it checks here and it checks the value. So if not creeps.roll, oh, interesting. Okay. So the problem that we're running into is that creeps.roll, it goes through the first time, its value is 0, but that's falsy. And I don't think that that key exists is in here yet. There's array prototype keys. Oh, it's an array of keys. I want an object keys. Hold on. Object check if key exists. I know that there's something that's adding in future JavaScript, but it might be too late. Like it might be too far in the future. includes has own property, returns a Boolean indicate whether it has the specified property. I wonder if I could, can I reset this? So right now it's true for this one. If I set this to 0, ooh, it's still true. So has own property. So an object has own property and then that key. Okay, so let's try that. So we'll reduce here. We can remove U. Roles creep role. So if roles dot has own property, but that property is going to be creep dot role. So if this is true that it has a property, I don't want to do anything. If it's false, I want to then set this and return the roles. And then let's do this again. Has own property. We need this to be property. Upgrader found at 2. Let's change this back to harvester. We're not getting anything now. Is there an error? No, no error. It should still be running. We should still have those. So creep.roles, harvester. If the role does not have its own property, creep.role, let's make sure I'm looking at this correctly. Yeah. Has own property. Has own property, yeah. The creep.role. Then we're going to take roles, add the role, and set it equal to the current index, and then return the roles, and we're starting with this object. All right. I kind of want to now let key in. Oh, it's not property. I want keys, don't I? No, that's fine. That is the key. Let key in creep roles. Console.log key. Harvester and upgrader. Okay, hold on. If you exist, then console.log creep roles dot harvester. 0. Okay, so it found the correct harvester. So perfect. The has own property is working as expected. So now that we've chosen a creep to spawn, we can now check through and just do, okay, so if creep roles dot harvester, so if it exists, well, we're gonna have to do this again, aren't we? So if it has its own property, so if creep roles has own property dot harvester, it's not dot, harvester. then we're going to want to return that. So we're going to say return creep rolls dot harvester. And not harvest energy, harvester. Okay, so if it does not, that might be too small. We'll just make this slightly bigger. If it doesn't have harvester, then the next thing that we want to do is, well, is choose the upgrader. So else if creep rolls has on property upgrader, return creep rolls dot, well, and it's not actually returning dot harvester because that's kind of useless. I want to return creeps of this because that's just the array position. So creeps dot upgrader, like that. And we only have these two. So as we continue to create these spawns, or these the spawning, like the types of creeps, we'll need to remember to come in here and fix that. And so that's where like some kind of other system that's a little bit smarter or automated might be helpful later. But for right now, we only have two. Okay, so if we come back here, that gives us the creep to resurrect. And then we can now spawn the creep. So just call spawn creep and creep to resurrect. Spawn creep, this takes a creep. And let's begin by console.log creep.roll. I need the function keyword. Harvester is what we're spawning. Perfect. So we'll first get the spawn. So const spawn equals game.spawns dot spawn one, because there's only one that we have. Then we're just going to tell this, so it's probably going to be the same thing, const result equals creep dot spawn. I think it's spawn creep, or is it create creep? It's spawn creep. Now what would be nice is maybe before I do this is finding out what do I have in this. So let's quickly loop through creeps. So for let name, let key in creep, console.log key. Looks like we have roll, working, and move. So the name doesn't exist anymore. And that's kind of sad. And I think that's because when we had right in here, get list of dead creeps, we have the name here. We want a dead creeps push memory's name. I think I want to put the name inside of the memory here. So let name memory creeps. I am going to make this a multi-line if statement. And before I push it, I'm going to say const creep equals, it's going to be memory dot creeps of name, I'm going to then creep.name equals name. So that way we'll store it, and then we'll push in the creep. So that should make it so now we have name is available to us. Perfect. So now we can spawn this guy in with the appropriate name. That was weird. So in spawn creep, we want to say const result equals spawn dot spawn creep spawn creep, we're going to pass it the body, so we're going to be working with the same body no matter what. Later on, we might be able to like store this inside of the creep memory, so that way we can just get this back. But I am running a little bit short on time, so let's just do work carry move the name, which is going to be creep.name, and the memory, which is going to be an object with memory, and the key is going to be creep. And I don't actually know if we need this. We're just going to make this attempt. So save it, and it should immediately start spawning. Now we're not going to get any of these errors because we're sort of just ignoring any errors. Even though it's attempting to spawn more, it's just going. And this harvester will immediately head off and begin harvesting energy to bring back. So now we're going to have a not necessarily robust system, but at least a system that will recreate these creeps as they die. So that way I can leave this overnight and we won't lose anything. So with that, that's going to be the end of this this test stream. Oh look, I got someone watching this one. Or actually, that's actually me, isn't it? Because I have my alternate screen right here. Okay, so we're going to do a couple more test streams in the next mornings or so. But the idea is that I'm eventually going to figure out when I can do these streams, for how long, get a schedule going. Then I'll start advertising these out. And actually work on real projects in the morning. You know, do some fun things to sort of warm up the brain, get ready for coding, and then go off and start the day. So, with that, thank you very much for watching. If you end up seeing this VOD, and I'll see you guys in the next stream, whenever that is.